All right, I guess we'll go ahead and get started here. Thanks to everyone online for joining in. We'll also have a recording of the webinar that we'll post on our website. So if any of your colleagues are interested in what we've talked about here today, we'll make that available as well. So this is going to be the first webinar in a series of different webinars that we'll go through. So this one is just going to cover an overview of our I-Street Testbed initiative. If you don't know me, I'm Clark Letter. I am a research assistant professor at the University of Florida Transportation Institute, and I manage the I-Street Testbed, which is a real-world testbed for deploying advanced and emerging transportation technologies. And so this will be kind of an overview, and then hopefully our continuing series of webinars will bring in different experts related to different topics. So on that note, I would like to direct you to a survey that would be great if you could complete, just identifying specific topics that you might be interested in relating to our testbed. So we've got some different options there on a different topic. So for instance, if you're very interested in maybe learning more about telecommunications associated with these roadside unit deployments, we can bring in experts related to that field or different areas. So we'd really like to offer some webinars that are more focused on specific topics. So it would be great if you could complete that webinar or that link. I'm going to paste it here into the chat. So you have access there, and I think we will email out just a follow-up to complete the survey, but feel free to complete it. It's just a short one-pager. So just a quick overview of the I-Street Testbed. And in general, if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to type it into the chat box. And I can try to get to it during the webinar or after. So the I-Street Testbed is a partnership between University of Florida, Florida Department of Transportation, and the City of Gainesville. So we really have similar goals in terms of evaluating and deploying emerging transportation technology. The main focus being improving safety on our roadways, as well as improving our congestion. So mobility, safety are our main goals. So we completed an initial project in September 2017 to kind of outline the structure of the testbed, what projects, what areas to go after. So we completed that project and then began progress on different projects. So some of our most prominent infrastructure-related projects, so this is where we're deploying different technology out into the roadway. I-75 frame, we're deploying 150 roadside units to communicate with vehicles. In this map here, the purple line represents I-75, if you're not familiar with Gainesville. So this is a major interstate running near Gainesville, and then all of these red areas are arterials surrounding Gainesville and feeders into the campus area. And so we're installing these roadside units to help relay information. We're also providing preemption for transit buses, emergency vehicles. So there's a whole lot going on with that. FDOT provided the funding for that, so they're implementing the project. I believe procurement is underway, so the design was completed. So at UF, we will be looking to leverage that deployment into additional research. What we call UF 8 is now referred to as the University of Florida Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Project. So this project is focused on evaluating passive detection technology. So for instance, different sensors such as infrared cameras, radar, LiDAR, regular video cameras to passively detect those pedestrians, then either activate a rapid flashing beacon at a mid-block crossing or directly relay that warning message into a vehicle. So now if you're driving down the road, you can have a warning that says pedestrian in crosswalk either as an audible alert or visual. So the RFP is yet to be released for that project. FDOT is working on creating that. And so within this map area, it would be this blue segment here, which are roadways in the heart of campus. So we have 13 signalized intersections and 7 mid-block crossings associated with that area. So we'll be looking to instrument all of those with this passive detection technology. The Gainesville Trapezium involves deploying 45 roadside units around a larger area surrounding the campus. So if you're familiar with Gainesville, this would be University Avenue, Southwest 13th. This is Archer Road and then Northwest 34th Street, or the Southwest 34th. And so these are the main roadways around campus. They're very congested. So we will be providing, or FDOT is providing the funding for this project to install roadside units at 27 intersections. And I think we had initially estimated 45 roadside units due to coverage issues, but I think we'll end up probably closer to 30 roadside units when all said and done. So Siemens won the bid for that project, and they will begin installing these units, I believe, in the next month or two, so rapidly approaching. And then probably one of our most visible projects is the autonomous shuttle that we will have running. As you can see in this image, it is this brown area to provide service between downtown and the campus area. So going a little deeper into the autonomous shuttle, so we have 2 vehicles currently in Gainesville, and we're just waiting for NHTSA to give us the okay to operate them. The city has been great in terms of procuring these vehicles with funding from FDOT. We've been ready to go since August, but are still waiting for those waivers for NHTSA to operate the vehicles. We've had a user evaluation before study that we've completed, where we've had researchers go out and ask questions related to, users, I guess, willingness to ride in the vehicles. Are they comfortable riding in them? Are they comfortable riding next to one of these vehicles? Are you comfortable as a bicyclist near it, a pedestrian? So we're leveraging this opportunity to perform this evaluation of before, and then after the vehicle starts running, how do these opinions change? We're trying to leverage the deployment for additional funding in terms of evaluating user evaluation as well as operational analysis of how well these vehicles are operating. Are there things we can improve on for this kind of, we call it a pilot, but it's a 3-year project. The vehicles we're using are easy mile vehicles. The company, the vendor who is supplying them is Transdev. So we're working primarily with Transdev on the operation of these vehicles. They seat 12 passengers, 6 seated, 6 standing. And the target speed is 15 miles per hour for our deployment in a mixed traffic environment. Here's a map of the routes that the vehicles will be running. I believe we'll eventually have 4 vehicles up and running. So the initial route is the blue area, which will just traverse the downtown area in a fixed route. So it will traverse 2 traffic circles here and here. Phase 2 will extend to the campus area. So Southwest 13th is a very busy road surrounding campus. So there are plenty of pedestrians, bicyclists. It's a signalized intersection here. So the vehicle is going to have to recognize the signal state. And we're working on different ways to supply that information to the vehicle. So we will use the onboard cameras on the vehicle. We're also looking at dedicated short-range communication from one of the RSUs in, actually both the Trapezium and the AID project overlap this. So providing redundancy in terms of what signal state we're relaying to that vehicle, whether it's visual cues, DSRC, cellular, we're trying all of these. So phase 3 will come down to Depot Park. recreation area of downtown. At that point, it will traverse 2 additional signalized intersections, and then phase 4 will be on-demand service within a geofenced area. So the service is free, but you will pull up your app and call the vehicle, and it can pick you up and take you to anywhere in this geofenced area. At least that's the plan. Things don't always go as you plan them to, but that's the goal. So we're just proceeding with getting the vehicles on the roadway at this point. I have a quick video in here of the vehicle running during its testing phase. So it's mapping the area, and while it maps, it operates at very low speed. This was an interesting case where a bicyclist approaches on the right side while the vehicle is attempting to pull into its stop location. So you can see it did yield, and then it pulls into its bus stop. And so the speed limit on this roadway is 25 miles per hour. And the vehicle's target speed is 15, so it's going to be operating even lower than an already low speed limit. So it will be interesting to see the impact in mixed traffic and how vehicles and all modes react to a low-speed shuttle operating in mixed traffic. Here's another quick video showing, we kind of had a show and tell where people in the community, mostly media members and city employees, could come out and ride on the vehicle. I think it was a great way to at least engage the media and select people without having a huge launch. I think at some point you'll see the assistant city manager, Dan Hoffman, walk out in front of the vehicle to prove that it's going to stop. And I think he was a little hesitant at first. He flinched a little bit because he wasn't sure if it was going to stop, but it does. And so when the vehicle starts its full service, we will have a broader launch of kind of a celebration to introduce the entire city to the vehicles. Here are some of the numbers from the before study that was conducted. So you can see that 77% of people indicated that they would use the shuttle on a typical commute. And keep in mind, we're a college town, so we would expect these numbers to be pretty high. When we look at drivers in a vehicle surrounding, in traffic, driving next to the AV shuttle, we can see that 34% of people would avoid driving next to it. 37% would avoid driving in front of it. We're trying to look at not just users' willingness to ride in the vehicle, but what is the impact on the surrounding traffic? The same with pedestrians and cyclists. You can see a pretty high number here that 43% would avoid biking adjacent to the vehicle. And 46% of pedestrians would feel less comfortable crossing the road. So I mentioned the SPAT Trapezium. I believe Raj Panaluri at FDOT came up with this acronym based on the general shape of the corridors. And so right now, as I mentioned, the project should be hitting the ground fairly soon with Siemens providing the equipment. So right now we're trying to ramp up our acquisition of connected vehicles. So installing that dedicated short-range communication capability on the UF fleet, excuse me, the UF fleet, City of Gainesville vehicles, and then some transit vehicles as well. So Siemens is providing a number of applications with their package, and we're looking to go beyond what they're providing and then include additional sensors, including LiDAR, and additional 360 fisheye cameras at all of these intersections as well to help fuel our research. We're ingesting all of this data into our UF database, which is hosted by Amazon Web Services. So they're currently storing all of our data for all of our projects. I had mentioned previously the Accelerated Innovation Development. So this was a federal grant awarded to us as partners of the city, FDOT, and University of Florida. So you can see the purple locations are the indicated mid-block crossings. The blue are the signalized intersections. And again, this is University Avenue and Southwest 13th Street, and those both overlap with the Trapezium route. So we're trying to determine whether we will need additional equipment based on this project, or if we can leverage the systems already in place through the Trapezium project. So we can expect the RFP for this project to come out in the next couple of months to identify potential solutions for that passive detection of pedestrians and bicyclists. Excuse me. So some other projects that are ongoing, data analytics platform. We're ingesting all of this data, and so we're trying to figure out what is the best analysis we can perform on it. Some of the things we're looking at are with video data, capturing near misses with vehicles and pedestrians at intersections. So processing that video in real time, and then performing an analysis to determine the number of near misses that occur in an effort to be more proactive in identifying potential problem locations. Sensor development and sensor fusion, we have teams working on that. We developed a sensor here at UF to place in the bike rack location of the transit buses to determine the presence of a bike. So now when students or anyone in Gainesville has their app open, you can not only see when the bus is arriving, but whether that bike rack is occupied on the vehicle. Well, the goal is to get it into the app that the city uses, but we've had issues with them allowing us to integrate into their app. But hopefully shortly that feature will be built in. Pedestrian and bicycle safety applications based on connectivity. In addition to the AID project, we're also looking at cellular applications to identify the presence of bicyclists and speeding vehicles. Shield Plus is a system developed by Mobileye to alert drivers of pedestrians and bicyclists in their blind spot and provide warning to them. So I'll go over that in a bit more detail. We're looking at intelligent school zone beacons, which will alert drivers via a cellular app if they are speeding in a school zone. So if they're speeding in an active school zone, they'll receive a warning that says speeding in school zone. So we're looking at how effective that warning is. Is a purely audible warning best, or can we include some visual cues in that as well? Here's just some more detail on the diagram of how the bike rack sensors work. So it's a pressure sensor. We send the information up to the cell tower. I believe it operates on very low bandwidth. So I think we're using 2G. It's not a lot of data, so it's very easy to implement without consuming a lot of data storage. So the Shield Plus system, I mentioned before, you can see the displays here. There's a center display that indicates that the system is active. It also has a warning for forward collisions, headway monitoring, lane departure, and speed limit. There are additional displays on the left and right of the cab that will light up yellow if there's a pedestrian in your blind spot. And if the system deems that a collision is imminent, it'll light up red and give you an audible beeping noise. Here's a video of the system working on our transit buses. So we installed on 10 buses in January. We operated them in stealth mode, which means that they're logging all the warnings to a telematics system, but not displaying any warning to the drivers. So you can see the indication light up yellow or red. We activated the system live at the beginning of March, so we had 2 months of stealth mode now the drivers are receiving active warnings on this system. So here's a screenshot of the telematics system we use, Iteran. So you can see the buses running in Gainesville, and then different statuses that are logged, triggered through different warnings. So if it senses a pedestrian, we'll get a pedestrian warning, say on the left rear or left front. We can then generate these hotspot maps where these warnings occur. So again, hopefully we can be more proactive in terms of identifying where we have high pedestrian activity, a lot of these near collisions, and then look at the design of these intersections or roadways, see if there are any design or operational issues that we can address. Additionally, you can go into what's called a street view and see exactly where these warnings occur. So you can see there's a lot of pedestrians in Gainesville crossing, not just at crosswalks, but in the middle of the road as well. Here's some more detail on the school zone beacon warning system. And with this app, it also has a vehicle-cyclist detection and warning system. So the cyclist system, both parties have to have the app installed, but it will give a warning to both the driver and the bicyclist whether a vehicle is approaching an unsafe speed or coming too close to that bicyclist. So this study is ongoing. We paired it with the same app also provides the school zone warning use case, where if you enter an active school zone and you're speeding, you will get that notification that you're speeding in a school zone. So currently we're running participants where we outfit each participant with eye tracking glasses so we can track exactly what they're looking at. Are they looking at the app? Are they looking at the school zone sign, at the cyclist? So it should be an interesting evaluation of not just a technical evaluation of does the system work, but is it effective in terms of altering drivers' behavior, as well as what type of warning is best. Is it a purely audible warning, or is it providing a visual cue? Is that distracting to the driver? So these are all things that we're working on. And so we've partnered with Applied Information and Temple are the companies that have created this system. So we're working with them to evaluate it. You can see some of the alerts that are generated. Even if you just drive into an active school zone, it'll let you know you're in a school zone without providing an audible warning. And if you exceed the speed, you get that audible alert. Down on the bottom, you can see the different modes that your app can change to. So this app is in pedestrian mode, and it's getting a high-speed vehicle caution. Here's our study area that we're using for this project. There are school zones. I believe we're going through 4 school zones for this project, and then we've got staged bicyclist locations, which was a challenge to get through the IRB, to have bicyclists out there as part of our study. But we found a solution for that. So the participants drive, we're recording the information from the app as well as the eye tracking data, and then after we perform a survey of their experience. So we're trying to push a project to evaluate an autonomous taxi service in the Villages community, I believe it's south of Ocala. So Voyage is a company that developed these self-driving taxis. This was their Gen 1 vehicle, this white car. They've now switched to I believe that's a Chrysler Pacifica, so they can, the capacity in their vehicles can be higher, and I believe it's easier to retrofit these to be ADA compliant, so you can more easily accommodate elderly passengers or passengers with disabilities. So as part of this study, we're performing surveys of the different villages that they're deploying their service to, as well as focus groups. Obviously, this is a very different demographic than what we have in Gainesville. We have primarily college students up here. The Villages community is a retirement community, so 55 plus. So it will be interesting to see what the impact is of this technology on, an aging population. Many of them have issues with, driving, and many of them lose their ability to drive. So to have this opportunity for a self-driving car to take them places, certainly interesting to evaluate. Just some additional research. I mentioned we're housing all our data on the Amazon Web Services. We're performing analytics on traffic signals. We're getting high-resolution controller data that we're performing analysis on. Video, Bluetooth, LiDAR. We've got tons of sensors we're putting up. And so the idea is to make this data available to the general research community so that you can use our data to fuel your research. The City of Gainesville is doing a great job testing out different new and emerging technologies and software. So they're using ATMF now, GridSmart, those 3D, or not 3D, but 360 fisheye cameras. With Iteris, we're using their Vantage Live software, which uses video detection to automate our vehicle counts. They can also get pedestrian and bicyclist counts as well. Applied Information, they are the vendor for the school zone app. We're using TrapOp, their ATSPM system, to generate metrics based off our high-resolution controller data. TrafficCast, Connected Signals, and TTS here, they do signal state prediction based on real-time data, and it's a cellular application. So I know Connected Signals is just freely downloadable. So it's an app where if you drive around Gainesville and you're approaching a signal, it will give you not just the signal indication, but the predicted time to green, time to red. So if you're approaching, I know they have liability information written into their agreement that you sign when you download the app that, that might be an issue. You would think providing signal information and predicting that, so you're, potentially causing people to speed up to make a green light and so on. So we have a PhD student who is currently evaluating that system, among others. Smart Micro, we partnered with them to evaluate their radar, their new Type 42. And then UF, we're performing different research with connected and automated vehicle intersection optimization. So we recently became approved for additional funding to include pedestrian detection into that algorithm. Here's just a diagram showing connected signals and the way their system works. So again, this is providing information on the signal state to your cell phone. So the way they do it is they basically put a Raspberry Pi looking device at the traffic management center and intercept the signal coming from all the traffic controllers. And they perform a port mirroring to send that back to their servers, and then they process all the data. And you can see all the intersections in Gainesville that they are active at. Generally, it takes, I'm not sure what their ramp up time, but a couple months to accurately predict the signal state. Traffic Technology Services, they provide a similar type of application, but instead of intercepting the data and sending it to their server, they access the city's database directly. And again, they have pretty much the same coverage in Gainesville at this point. I mentioned the Iteris Vantage Live system. So they're using video detection and then performing analytics to automate counts for vehicles, bicycles, pedestrians. And they have a pretty cool dashboard where you can download this information. Vantage Live again. Here's a quick example of some simulation work we did for freeway merging, where we can optimize the merging process. If we have autonomous vehicles, so we can communicate them, they can apply speed control, acceleration, braking, steering to optimize the merging process here. So this is an identical traffic demand, and you can see the improvement for autonomous vehicle traffic streams. So we've been doing a lot of Dr. Sanjay Ranka in computer science with video analytics. So here's an example where he's automating truck classification on an interstate. So he's automatically classifying these vehicles. You'll see that the box is generated around trucks, but not passenger cars here. So even within those, it's classifying between all those truck types. One thing he's attempting to do as well is read text on the vehicle to determine what commodity they're carrying. So an interesting project that has many potential applications. Excuse me. So one of our research projects at UF that we've done is using connected and autonomous vehicle information to optimize our signal control. So in this project, connected vehicles approach an intersection, we detect them, use that information to optimize the signal timing in real time, and then send trajectory information back to connected and automated vehicles. So the goal there is to reduce our average delay for each approach. Here's an example of trajectories that are generated. So for our study, we looked at an isolated intersection for a low volume condition. We did sensor fusion for this project. So in addition to DSRC, dedicated short range communication, which is a radio frequency, we also looked at video detection and radar. So we're fusing those three sensors to get an accurate picture of not just where connected vehicles are, but also conventional vehicles which aren't equipped with that DSRC communication. So each sensor kind of has disadvantages, and when you combine all three, we can get a much more accurate picture of exactly where vehicles are, what speed they're traveling. And so with radar and camera, we obviously have occlusion problems where if you can't see through a vehicle, that's when dedicated short-range communication allows you to detect that vehicle behind another vehicle. Here's an example of a suitcase we put in the vehicles. We call it a suitcase because it kind of looks like one, but it basically just includes this radio, an antenna, is really all you need. In our case, we built it out a little further with some computer monitor, but generally these radios can be integrated directly into your vehicle, so you would never even know it's there. Kind of just having an antenna on top of your car. But for our purposes, we can port this between vehicles, so basically turn any car into a connected vehicle. So we had demonstrated this out at the Traffic Engineering Research Lab in Tallahassee. So we used CODA wireless DSRC units, smart micro radar. So for our first iteration, we only fused the radar with the DSRC without the video fusion. So we'll introduce the video fusion in our next testing round in the next, I believe this summer is going to be our next test out there. We did a very basic app. One of the interesting parts of this project is how do you relay this information to a connected vehicle? We're an autonomous vehicle. You send it a trajectory and we can plan how that vehicle is going to travel. But for a purely connected vehicle, is it better to give them a speed recommendation? We found that it's difficult to look at an app even if it's providing audible warnings, and look at your speedometer and adjust your speed. So as part of our continuing project, we're going to look at different methods of relaying trajectory information to connected vehicles. What we ended up with on our first iteration was kind of a countdown to cross the stop bar, which we found was easier to implement than speed recommendation, actually. Here's a video of our testing out at the Turtle facility. As mentioned, we're planning another Turtle test with the entire fusion system for this summer. And then additionally, we'll be adding the pedestrian detection through LiDAR. So we have our DSRC radio equipped on this mast arm. We also have the radar detecting conventional vehicles. We're somewhat constrained by geometry at this facility. You can see there's very short approaches. We really had one good run up. So these vehicles are broadcasting their information, so speed, latitude, longitude, to a roadside unit that is actually located in this trailer here. In a field deployment, it would be located in the controller cabinet. But this way we can sit in the air conditioning and not be so hot. So we got this drone up getting some footage. It's difficult to see the signal indication on these videos. But you can see that the vehicle's traveling through the intersection. Let's see, I think I've got another video here showing the Navigator, which is our research autonomous vehicle. So we use this for our testing as well. You can see it's equipped with all kinds of LiDAR cameras. It doesn't look quite as sleek as some of the newer autonomous vehicles that you see out there. But right here it is attempting a gap acceptance for a left turn here at a, stop controlled intersection. I think it eventually makes a turn. It might cut someone off, but this is useful for us as a research tool. One of our goals is to kind of bring in new partners. It's difficult to partner with some of the real big auto manufacturers, as they like to keep their technology kind of proprietary. But we're constantly looking to make new connections and collaborate with developers of autonomous vehicles. So here is some simulations we ran. Obviously, to deploy the system that we had generated in a physical environment, you need a lot of connected vehicles. You need multiple autonomous vehicles to demonstrate the results. So the easiest way to do this is to simulate this. So the overall result is just lower average travel time per mile compared to a fully actuated control with conventional vehicles. So that is the conclusion of everything I have to present on. So I would be happy to take some questions. If you have a question, just go ahead and type it into the chat, and I would be happy to answer it